Você ama garantir uma vaga na universidade com a sua nota do Enem? Então venha para a AMB Morumbi. Aqui você está sempre conectado com o mercado de trabalho e coloca a mão na massa desde o primeiro dia de aula. Tudo em ambientes inspiradores, com metodologia de ensino inovadora e uma estrutura de ponta. Use agora a sua nota do Enem. Inscreva-se em amb.br. AMB Morumbi. Aqui tudo acontece.
Today on CityCast DC. Trump's inauguration is on Monday, and in addition to navigating any big feelings you might be feeling about it, here in DC, it also means navigating practical things like road closures, traffic, and increased security around town. Axios' Cuneyt Dil attended Mayor Bowser's press conference on inauguration security and shares what you need to know about safety and getting around town this weekend. Today's Wednesday, January 15th. I'm Bridget Todd, and here's what DC is talking about. So as you know, inauguration is coming up on Monday. I've already seen definitely a higher police presence around town, but also high fencing. What exactly is the city doing to make sure that folks are staying safe during inauguration?
This is going to have some of the most stringent security measures ever taken for a national security event. So DC is expecting 250,000 ticketed guests for the inauguration, and that doesn't include the thousands more that will be expected on the National Mall. And you add on top of that some demonstrators and some other activity that could be going on Monday. And as you say, there is already a heightened security presence. There will be over 25,000 law enforcement and military personnel deployed in Washington, a huge number, right? That includes 4,000 officers coming in from other cities to help DC police, and also 7,800 National Guard members will be on hand as well to assist with everything. You mentioned the fencing. There will be 30 miles of anti-scale fencing installed, which is the most ever for an inauguration, we're told. And on top of that, security officials say, do not be alarmed if you see drones. They will be assisting police in surveillance and the Secret Service as well. So this is a drastic, big security posture to keep everything safe for the inauguration.
So is it just for Inauguration Day, which is on Monday, or are there other events this weekend that the city is also on high alert for?
There are demonstrations that we expect over the weekend. Some of those plans are coming into more clarity in the coming days, but there's a demonstration plan in Freedom Plaza that could draw 50,000 people. And what we were told also is some of these security measures were taken for the recent two other big events that were held in the city. The vote for the presidential electoral count certification in Congress, that, as you recall, also brought security to Capitol Hill. That still remains. And also some of the security taken around Jimmy Carter's funeral are also lingering. So this whole month, in fact, has just been a city of heightened security. So expect more of that.
You mentioned the elector certifying as a day that saw some heightened security. Is that a change? I don't recall before January 6th, the insurrection, that being a day that people thought of as a day that needed heightened security around DC. Is that a change?
Yeah, geez. I mean, just think about it. This is a mundane vote that would happen every 4 years in Congress. And obviously January 6th shattered all of that. And this year, the city asked for this to be a Super Bowl level security event, the same kind of security that happens on Inauguration Day, the same kind of security that the State of the Union address gets. This time around, the congressional vote certification also had that same level of security. If you'll recall, it kind of coincided with that snowy, messy snowstorm as well. Everything went off without a hitch, with no drama, but it was obviously a huge day of security around Capitol Hill for that vote, and thankfully it went off without any issues.
Are there other security measures that have changed since our last go-around with inaugurations?
Sure, this was a 12-month process to plan for Inauguration Day. The sheer number of law enforcement and military personnel, speaks to how seriously this is being taken, because you have not just the swearing in, you have a convergence possibly of demonstrations, other activity, a heightened security presence because of any risks or any lone wolf threats. Now, the city and law enforcement are saying there are no specific or credible threats right now, but their top concern is a lone actor threat. And they want to make sure, obviously, that they can keep the city locked down and secure.
What parts of the city are going to be most affected?
The capital area, National Mall, Union Station, other areas like that. But, uh, you know, downtown will have widespread road closures. So I would say plan on using Metro if you need to get around the city. Probably stay away from downtown if you're not going into the inauguration ceremonies. And there will be some Metro adjustments as well. Metro is obviously like a huge part of this day. There will be some stations closing: McPherson Square, Federal Triangle, Smithsonian, and Mount Vernon Square and the Archive stations will be closed that day. Service will still run through them, of course, but there are a list of other stations that might have adjusted access. People want you to get on Metro if you want to get around DC that day. They really discourage vehicle traffic because, let me also mention, a lot of the streets will have emergency no parking and parking restrictions as well. So not a good day to drive. Get on the Metro.
Yeah, how bad do you think traffic is going to be?
I mean, traffic will be a cluster, if I can say that. It's just this is a huge day for DC. I think a lot of people will stay home if they don't have to work, and for people trying to get to the inauguration, Metro is your best way. There will be people guiding you. There will be security checkpoints, but especially in that downtown core, you don't want to be around it, I would say, if you don't want to go to the inauguration.
So I want to kind of zoom out a little bit. We've talked about this on the show before, but MPD has had a pretty hard time recruiting and retaining officers over the past 5 years or so. So there are literally fewer police officers and law enforcement officers around. How might this impact the overall security plan here?
Yeah, that's a good point. So that's one reason I think DC has 4,000 officers from other cities coming in to DC to help out with the effort. This whole effort is led by the Secret Service. It's a massive undertaking of all the federal law enforcement agencies involved, including FBI, and the local agencies involved, Metropolitan Police Department. They will be deployed primarily on making sure the city is safe for the inauguration that day, with a big presence downtown and in core areas like that. And there will also be National Guard members to help with the local police effort as well. So this does, again, like you say, bring attention to the current staffing levels of MPD, which I believe are still almost at a sort of recent low in terms of, if you look at the staffing levels. I think 4,000 is the number the mayor has tried to reach, and I think we're still about 700, 800 short of that number.
So thinking about the way that the security conversation around these big events has changed for the district, you talked about drones. If you've been on TikTok at all, you might have seen that drones are a specific sort of thing that people are talking about. Aren't drones technically not allowed to be flown in DC?
This is the most protected airspace, maybe in the world, but you can't just fly a drone. Obviously, it's the Secret Service who will be using the drones to help them keep tabs on everything and help in surveillance. But yes, you can't really fly a drone, I believe, 30 miles around the city without a very special permit, very special permission from the federal government for that.
I'm sure we're going to see a lot of chatter about those drones after this is all over. Just thinking about the way that has sparked conversation pretty recently.
It's in the zeitgeist. It's
in the zeitgeist. That's a good way to say it.
I think that's why they were assuring people that, if you see drones, the Secret Service is using them for security purposes.
Você ama ter mais flexibilidade para estudar? Então, use sua nota do Enem e garanta uma vaga na AMB Morumbi. Aqui, você pode escolher qual modalidade se adapta melhor à sua rotina. Presencial, semipresencial ou ensino à distância. Tudo com metodologia inovadora e prática desde o início do curso. Descubra por que milhares de alunos amam estudar aqui. Use agora a sua nota do Enem e inscreva-se em amb.br. AMB Morumbi. Aqui, tudo acontece.
Tem um momento na carreira que precisamos dar um passo além. É hora de fazer uma pós-graduação. Só que muitas vezes o custo pesa no bolso, inviabilizando tudo. Com a pós-graduação do Senac, você não tem esse problema. Cursos com até 50% de desconto e muito mais tempo para pagar. TCC opcional, modelo flexível com aulas presenciais e online e alguns cursos com apenas 12 meses de duração. Não tem mais desculpa, hein? Saiba mais em sp.senac.br/pós-graduação.
At Bowser's press conference on Monday, she was talking about these events that, we don't necessarily think of as events that needed security in the past. Like we were talking about the counting of the electors, but she referred to them as national special security events. What exactly do you think that means?
Yeah, so this is the designation that you give a security event such as the inauguration day itself. The Super Bowl gets this official designation. The State of the Union address gets this designation. This is when the Secret Service takes charge, marshals local and federal law enforcement, and brings a heightened security posture, the highest level, if you will. And they sort of lead the effort, and they bring together all these other agencies, with the aim of bringing maximum security to a highly sensitive event of national importance. So, like I said, the vote counting in Congress for the first time ever was given this designation. The Carter funeral this month was given this designation. And Inauguration Day, of course, will have this as well.
We're seeing these kinds of events happening in the city back to back. Does that succession help or hurt security? Like, does it slow them down, or are they just sort of more efficient because they're heightened all the time? How does it work?
Well, it's certainly unprecedented. This is the first time ever you've had 3 national special security events happen in 1 month. 3 in about, I think, actually 15 days or so. That was the time span. And look, I think these are seasoned pros, right? So in some ways, they can roll over some of the security that existed for the January 6th vote counting and keep the fencing up, keep the posture up, and roll that through the Carter funeral, roll it through the Inauguration Day as well. But certainly they're working overtime, if you will, because this is the first time we've had 3 events in 1 month receive this designation. They're operating in a heightened threat environment. Law enforcement has said there's no credible threats all throughout this month, but they are on guard for any lone sort of actor threats. And especially after January 6th, the riot that happened, 4 years ago, there's been a lot of criticism and scrutiny over intel gathering and taking threats seriously and making sure the city is prepared. So they've acknowledged all of that, and they've made strides to improving their response.
So, talking about inauguration, this isn't really about security necessarily, but it came up during the presser, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. People are really talking about the $1.5 million that the city spent on the box for Bowser and other DC officials to watch the inaugural parade. I know there's been a lot of big reactions to that. What was the mayor's reaction to being asked about that on Monday at the presser?
Yeah, that's right. So I reported last week the city, its inaugural parade viewing stand, which it builds outside City Hall on the Pennsylvania Avenue, the cost of it has ballooned to $1.5 million. This is for a 1-day box that's indoors and with heated seats and glass viewing panels to look at the parade. And it's a chance for the mayor, the council members, their VIPs to get, like the best seat in town, essentially, to see the parade. And like I said, it's ballooned in cost. It didn't used to cost this much. It's $1.5 million. Bowser has defended this. She said, quote, "I hate that the costs have escalated." But she also added, quote, "I think it's important to do it every 4 years." And I think what she's getting at there is she says it's important for the city government to have that seat to show that the administration that they're going to work with to have that sort of tradition continue. And for Bowser, she doesn't want to unnecessarily spite the president-elect Trump, someone who has called for the takeover of the city, someone who has had a lot of tension with the city, someone who the city does not vote for. I think it was 90% that Harris received in D.C. So obviously the mayor doesn't want to unnecessarily spite someone who's threatening the city so severely. And this stand is getting built. But I will note, for all this money spent, a lot of Democrats are non-committal on attending. The mayor's going to be there. Councilmember Brooke Pinto, who actually represents that area, she will be attending the parade stand. But a lot of council members, we're going to see if they actually show up. And it does kind of beg the question. It's a lot of money being spent if a lot of people actually skip on attending it.
So they could have spent all this money and only have sparse attendance.
I mean, right, it hosts about 150 people, and constituents can reach out to their council members. In fact, if they want to get tickets, they might be able to get tickets from their council member offices. But last time around, when Trump was inaugurated, the first time, only 3 out of 13 council members attended. So this time I reached out to a bunch of offices, didn't hear back from most of them.
Yeah, something tells me that if you are listening and you want to attend Trump's inauguration, I bet you could probably get tickets. Something tells me that's not a hot ticket in the District of Columbia. I don't know. What do you think?
Reach out to your council member, yes. For some reason, I will also say here that it's taken longer for them to plan and finish this viewing stand, and the tickets weren't available as of last week. I think now if you check with your council office, you might have better luck. But they should be dispersing those to constituents if they're available.
Okay, well, I have one final question for you. As so many of these security protocols are shifting and changing, what is the best way for us and other residents to follow any updates or changes to security that might happen over the next few days?
Yes, you want to check inauguration.dc.gov. I sound like a public service announcement, but seriously, I mean, we can talk about this as much as we want to, but this is a fluid situation. There are maps, there are road closures, there are metro service disruptions, all those things you can find on inauguration.dc.gov. And there is this live text line as well. If you text DC INAUG, which is DCINAUG, to 888-777, DC will send you live text alerts about the inauguration as well.
Well, Cuneyt, thank you so much for covering all of this and for keeping us in the know. I'll see you at Inauguration.
Thank you. Have a good one.
That's all for today here on CityCast DC. If you enjoyed the show, share it with a friend who's planning on attending Inauguration for some reason. We'll be back tomorrow morning with even more news from around the city. Talk to you then.